Okay, the purpose of this video is to give an overview of how and where to buy a Speeduino in the United States in September of 2022. This stuff changes a little bit over time, but I'll show you sort of where you'll find things now and what to buy and what you need and what you don't need. I'm sure there's other stuff I could show you, but I just want to give you a quick overview of where to go. So I've bought my stuff from WTMtronics, so it's WTMtronics.com, and in here you'll find, under the shop tab, you'll find a button for Speeduino. Click that. This is where you can buy Speeduino kits or Speeduino circuit boards only, or really whatever you want. So there's a whole bunch of versions here. So here's the NO2C, which is a 2 ignition channel, 2 fuel channel board. So if you have, something like a small engine, or you want to run a 4-cylinder in wasted spark and semi-sequential or batch fire fuel, you can run that. You can run this thing. So you can buy either just the board for $6 or the whole kit for $90. I won't go through all this. This is a Speeduino 4.4D, which is a surface mount version. This only comes assembled, so it's $160. Here's the Speeduino 0.3, and this one has, if you look at like this one up here, you can see this one has this IDC connector that plugs into the board, or you can solder right to the board if you want to with your jumper wires. The 03 board, so 0.3 board, this one has screw terminals, so if you'd rather have more flexibility and have a less permanent installation, or you think you want to change things, or you're prototyping, this one might be a good fit for you. I tend to like the 0.4 board, and I like this because you can buy it with, so what I've been doing is I've just been buying the board. So as selected here, they just send you the board. There's no components. You can choose the kit with the components, and that's $81. It goes from $8 to $81. That does not include the map sensor. So there's the map sensor mounted on the board there. If you add the map sensor, it adds some more onto it. So the way I've been buying these is like this, and I have a big package of resistors, so I'll just kind of point at some stuff here. I have a package of resistors that I bought off of Amazon or something. So all these small resistors are sort of normal, typical values that you'd get. These bigger resistors are 2-watt resistors, so you probably don't have those hanging out. You want to make sure you get the correct rating. And then LEDs, there's nothing special about LEDs. It's pretty easy to put together, and if you want to just solder jumpers in, that's what I've been doing, because I put these together for a specific application. I'm not moving it to a different vehicle or anything like that. So that's how I've been doing it. One thing to note is I bought one of these for my Civic that I'm putting a J-Series in, and I ordered just the board, and then they sent me this one, which is, let's see, where does it say on here? It doesn't say on here, but it's a 0.4.3D, which they say you're going to get a 3D. So this is the latest version of the board. It's a little different than the C that I had used before. So I ordered another one and made a note saying, hey, I'd like a C this time, and they sent me this one. Now I've got the transistors or the MOSFETs sitting in there on both of these because I'm getting ready to assemble one of them. But here you can see the difference between the two. Here's the C and here's the D. You can see the MOSFETs sit flat on the board. On the D, the ULN 2003, which is needed for some like fuel pump output and stuff, has an actual spot, and the circuit's already in there. On the C, you have to build that in the prototype area here. So it's a little different. I had already bought all the components for this one, and there's a few things that are different on the D that I didn't want to buy a bunch of new parts. I'm sure I will eventually, but I'm going to use this on my J Series Civic. So once you order the board, you know, you can buy an enclosure from these guys too. You can 3D print an enclosure, which is what I think I'm going to do. But once you get the board and you have the resistors, probably, if you have any kind of electronics kit, the capacitors are not something that I typically have in stock, so I order those, and I ordered the MOSFETs. Those are a couple bucks a piece, so I don't have those just laying around. So you can go to like a couple places that are good places to buy electronic parts. Is DigiKey. So this is digikey.com. And then Mouser is also a place you can buy electronics parts. See, I've got a bunch of parts for the D in my cart with the 0.4.3D, that is. So that's from Mouser.com. So I'll probably order those parts at some point. So if you want to build one, you can build it doing that, or you can order the surface mount one, which is the 0.4.4, which was this one. And that one comes assembled, so you don't have to do any, you don't have to build that one. What I like best about the 4.3 is that you can find schematics for it very easily online, and it doesn't seem like the newer boards, like this board I couldn't find a schematic for online. This one has all the documentation and everything readily available. I'm sure you could find the schematic for that one if you wanted to. So if you search for Speeduino schematic, you'll find this GitHub page, and you can get a few different things. So bill of materials you can download, and it's got, I'll show you what that looks like. So the bill of materials has all the components that you need to assemble it, right? So you can go to DigiKey or Mouser and you can order the parts yourself. It's going to be easier just to order them from WTM, but I like to do things the hard way sometimes. Other thing you can find here is the schematic. So here, all the circuits for the, let's see, I think this is the 0.4.3. Yeah, so this is the 0.4 schematic. So all of the connections for everything and how the circuits are put together are all clearly laid out. So, you know, I had some issues with power circuit on my first one I built, and look at this, I can see everything that's in the power circuit. So I was able to determine that I had a bad capacitor and that was overheating my voltage regulator, and that would have been not so easy to figure out without the schematics. So all that documentation is available. Let's go back here. And then, you know, if you want the PCB schematic, you know, how actually the traces and where they go and stuff. I mean, I think the information is even here. Like, I think the Gerber file you can actually send to manufacturers and have the board built yourself. So, you know, you can sort of do whatever you want, take those, modify them for your own purposes, all that sort of stuff. So the one downside to Speeduino, if you call it a downside, is if you're running something with more cylinders than 4, you know, there's a few boards that people make that can you know, run a 6-cylinder in sequential, but you only have 4 ignition drivers and 4 fuel drivers on this board. So you'll have to, like I'm going to do with my J series, run batch fuel injection or semi-sequential fuel injection and wasted coil on plug. And then you really only need 3 of the 4 outputs for that. So you could do a V8 in the same way using this hardware. Now there are other boards that exist, like the Drop Bear, that has 8 channels and can do sequential 8-cylinder, I think. But I've never messed with one of those. I think they're kind of hard to get your hands on. So that's W2Mtronics, and that's how I have done it so far. If you like a more turnkey option, there you can go to detonationems.com and you can buy assembled versions. You can buy kit versions here too, I think. Maybe they're all assembled here, I'm not sure. These look like they're all assembled. So this is basically the same thing as the 0.4.3C. Actually it's got surface mounts, so it's not the C, but it's basically the same thing I just showed you. It's just a little different layout. And this comes assembled for 150 bucks, so you don't have to really solder anything, or minimal soldering to get that to work. You can buy an adapter harness that plugs right into it. You can buy it with the enclosure, so literally you just buy that, and you can plug it in and solder those wires into your harness or extend them for your harness, and off you go. And this is very similar to the NO2C. Oops, sorry, the pre-ignition X2 is similar to the NO2C, so it's got 2 channels of ignition and fuel, and there's a couple different versions here. And I don't know what the difference is between the pre-ignition X4 and the 1.3. I'm sure it's pretty similar. Maybe the map sensor is different or something. So yeah, and if you need a VR conditioner because you've got a VR crank or cam signal, if you want to buy your Arduino from here, you can do that. So there's a whole bunch of stuff here. Bluetooth module in case you want to connect via Bluetooth. So yeah, to my knowledge, these are the 2 main places that you can buy Speeduino stuff in the United States at this time, which is September of 2022. And when you order an unassembled kit, you end up with a big pile of baggies like this. Then you have to, you know, put them through there and trim the leads and solder them and all that kind of fun stuff. I just have a little Chinese soldering station like this that works fine, works great. Gets hot enough for everything I'm trying to do. It has enough power to actually do wire harnesses too. Sometimes if you get those little like 40-watt ones, they sometimes struggle with bigger wires and stuff. So that's sort of an overview of how and where to buy a Speeduino right now, and hopefully it helps some people with getting started.